Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Friday. It's August the 16th. This will be our chart lesson for today. We spent all morning in this trading range, the overnight, and all morning in this trading range from about 1654 to about, got as high as maybe, I'd probably call that the top, 1661. That really looks like a better spot. So 54 to 61. Not even 10 points, maybe about 7-point range. There were some nice trends in both directions, and it's pretty obvious what's going on here. We finally broke loose, which has kind of been similar to what we've seen lately. The bias is certainly to the downside, I would say at this point, but it wouldn't surprise me if we don't rally out of here and be back up here making new highs before the day's over. So, nothing would surprise me right now, the way this market's been lately. But let's talk about the trades. I'll show you what I saw. There was a little channel working up in the overnight, then a real tight one that worked down right into the open. That was the first trade I saw, was right after the open there, right at the open. Then we had a nice little channel back up. We had the break. Notice this too. Notice on this one, we had a break down here early. You probably couldn't even find that then, but I was, most of us probably weren't trading that time of day. But we finally did break it here, and you can see we came back and tried to test it on this bar and then this bar, and then we just couldn't do it. So then we're headed to the other side of the range, and notice the little tight channel, the break, the new low. Then we're working up. We had a little bit of a break there, but we broke it for sure here. And then the new high right at the range, it turns down, and we trend down, and this time we break on through and go lower. But you can see there's no setup there that would have tricked you into going long. And once you're moving this far down, you don't want to be trying to buy, because that's a pretty strong trend coming down through there. Then notice we get the break right here, a new low, and we're rallying out of there. So everything's following the rules. And I see a bigger channel here, kind of the median line here. So everything is, pretty standard today if you see this stuff. But I've had a couple of emails lately, people saying that, what happens is they get short every time down here, and then they're getting long all up in here. And the first way to really know that it's a trading range day is look at the EMA. Look how prices are below, above, below, above, below, above, below, above, below, above, and now they're steadily below. That's what a trend looks like. Notice how prices are steadily below the EMA, and they're still below it down here. So, but when they're on both sides, that's your clue that, it's a trading range day. And let me show you how these legs work. Look, starting right here, 2 legs up, 2 legs down, 2 legs up, 2 legs down. And there's really a couple legs in there. They started the second leg there and trapped everybody, and then boom, you got that big leg, a little correction, and then there's a measured leg. And so you just, a lot of this has to do with experience and just knowing what to look at. And you get people that get in here and they've been trading for 2 to 4 months, and they think they know the rules, and you can see that's a perfect measured move there on those 2 moves. And then we corrected and we made one more attempt. This looks like a little reversal pattern down here. Is it going to reverse? I don't know, but it looks like one. So we'll see if it starts going higher and you get a trend going the other way, then start trading the other way. But back to what I was saying, you get people that have been trading for 4 to 6 months, and they're just getting whipsawed. They see this start moving down, and they try to get short, and guess what? It goes higher. And then they see it working higher, and they try to get high, and guess what? It goes lower. Well, that's the whole idea, to fool you, to trick you, to get you in on the wrong side and then run it the other way. So you've got to learn how to read this chart. Until you do, and it doesn't happen in 2, 3, 4, 6 months for most people. Most people, it takes, I've got thousands and thousands of hours of watching this thing, and I still get fooled sometimes. So nobody's ever going to get it 100%. But I guess the idea I'm trying to tell you is you can't get discouraged because you suddenly get used to it trending. I mean, there was back in the early spring, the late spring and early summer, you could enter in any direction if you saw a second entry, and in a blink you were in and out, and you could have got 3 or 4 points out of a lot of those moves. But the market's not doing that again. We've slowed back down, and the volume's trickling up. There's a lot of volume today, but it's not like what we were seeing for a while there. And they lull you to sleep. They get you used to one thing, and then it changes. But if you follow the rules overall, the rules still work. The idea is noticing and having the experience to understand what's going on. And, you know, it should be real clear for all up through here that this is a trading range. Look how prices are on both sides of that EMA over and over. But now look where the trend's coming. We can't even get back to the EMA. We finally do. You know, everything's been below the EMA since this move right here. That's a trend. This is a range. So learn to spot that, and that'll help you more than anything, because when we're going like this, there's still a trend in here, don't get me wrong, but it's a totally different trend, and you got to be real careful. You know, just look for the two legs. Here's the first entry, pull back, second entry. That's a second entry long. Here's your first leg, pull back, and there's a little trap there, second entry long. You got a second leg, then there's two legs down, a second entry, and there's your move. Second entry, there's your move. And, you know, you got to learn to spot this. And I'm going to go ahead and I meant to mark this one earlier. I'm going to make this one green. But, you know, if you wanted to, this is a little aggressive, but there's a, no, that's the wrong one. I'm having some mouse troubles that are just driving me nuts. And I've played with my mouse. It seems to be fine. But whenever I get on NinjaTrader, you know, it's like it double clicks all the time, even though I'm only clicking it once. So I got to figure this out at some point. Somebody sent me some ideas. I'm going to look into it. But let's talk about the trades, and I'm going to wrap it up. We're 7 minutes into this. I haven't even talked about the first trade. But notice how we're trending down. You got a tight trend right here. I didn't like this entry because look at all the overlap. Two dojis. It would have worked if you took it. You know, it's another one you could probably mark in green because it is a turn off the trend line. And that's another thing. People are not, you know, they're scared to buy these trend lines, and you see it until you get a break. Every one of them works. You see coming down through here, every touch of that trend line worked until you got a break, and you still work to the new low. And, you know, the only one that didn't make a new high after the break, and you probably did because you probably could consider either of these as the break and then the move to the new high. Okay, I'm sorry I had an interruption there. I don't even know where I left off, but you can see this thing's rallying out of there. Look at that rally out of there. I mean, that's, you know, it's just it's a range day, and it's still a range day. But I'm not going to worry with that. But, you know, if you're still trading, you'll want to try to figure out this, and this is how I do it. I'll put it on there. I'll play around with it till I find the best fit. And you might even have to adjust it. You know, you may start out with it looking like that, or maybe like that right there. And then you have to adjust it because it comes down here and it doesn't fit quite right. So then maybe you find out, hey, maybe the trend didn't start till right here. Maybe that's the trend working up right there. So that's how I do it. Every phone I got's ringing. Okay, I'm sorry, our phone just keeps ringing here. But you can see I adjusted that a little bit. Notice how it's fitting really well right there now. I got it off the top and then moved it down, and it bounced right there. And, you know, this is a nice little rally moving up here. So now you'll follow this trend line until you get a break and a retest. Now, a retest will normally be a new high or low, but sometimes it'll be like this one where it breaks and it can't. It's just there's too much selling pressure, and it only retests the trend line, and then it goes down. And but generally these longer trends, you'll get a typical trend line break and a retest to the low. It might make a double bottom or a slightly higher low if there's a lot of support right there. But that's how you do it. And, you know, if you're doing anything, but people will send me their chart and they went long right here and they got no trend line on here. And, you know, if they had their trend line on there, they'd have known not to be going long right there. And, or right here, this is a second entry. And the second entry traps have really confused a lot of people. And I'm guessing that what it is you're just picking up the video and you're watching and you see me demonstrate them and you see me show them and how good they work. But it's got to be in the right context. You know, there's a reason not to be going long right here on this second entry. Look at all that overlap. Look at this trend line. it's holding. Notice that we're at the high where the resistance is. There's a lot of reasons, but the main reason is you got a first entry and then a second entry, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars overlapping, and this one didn't even close on its high, even though it looks kind of bullish. So if you enter here and it breaks up here and then instantly starts selling back down, that's not a good sign. I would have exited one tick below that, and I would have actually reversed if I was trapped there, because you know what's coming next. You definitely should realize that that line's there, and you get the line off the bottom and move it up here before prices ever came up here the first time. Notice that. It's coming right off those swings. It held to close right there, and then you drag it up there, and you can see it fits perfect. And that's how I do it a lot of times. And so you could have got that, and then when it turns down off that twice and it closes way down here, you got a long trap right there. And look at that move, boom. And that is the kind you like to catch. And that's what happens on traps. They made people think they were going to take this higher, and they get everybody loaded up, and then boom, and then everybody starts exiting, and next thing you know, it's a waterfall. So let's talk about the trades, and then we'll wrap it up. But the first trade I saw that I really wanted to enter here, I talked myself out of it. It's just a first entry long based on the move down, and then you get a failed second entry long. But more than that, it's the first break of the trend line. It's a nice bearish bar. I did use a limit order to enter here, got filled, easy scalp, and a little bit more, and then it bounces, guess what, right where this double bottom is before. And you could have gone long right there. It's a little more aggressive, so I marked it in green, and then guess what, you tried to go lower here twice. You had a little trap. Look at that reverse. I went long right there. When it went lower here first and then went out the top on the same bar, it's a second entry long. It's 2 times to go lower. You got to figure you're going to get another leg up. We've already had a trend line break and a new low, so they just trapped everybody to the low side here. But let me show you how to know not to be careful about going long here. Notice the trend line breaking the new low, first of all. That's your first clue. Hey, it could reverse here now. Secondly, it's a broad double bottom, really a triple bottom. But look how bullish this move is. Look how this high is. We've got higher than there. There's a lot of buying going on right there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have broke above that previous high. And then we're coming down. We make a higher low. We try that one more time. It still can't go any lower. And then, so guess what? They're going to take it back up and test the other side and try to test the next one. There's the next high. That's where it finds some resistance. 2 legs back, a second entry long, and then it's working on the next resistance area. And it just keeps doing that till it finally fails and can't go anymore. Now it's coming down, testing the support area all the way down. Notice where all these bounces are. They're right where the previous support areas were. Notice we found support right in there and right across here where we had it before. This is the only one it broke right through, but by this time everybody was trapped right here, and they just washed them all out. And then guess what? You also got this trend line if you're drawing it. And then you get the break, a new low, and here we go. We're going higher. And notice we broke out of this, and it came back and tested it. Will we go higher? I don't know. This is, you got to be careful about that right there, though. But you can see this little smaller trend channel. It took priority over this right here, and it broke higher once. If this fails and it goes higher again, then good chance we're probably going higher. So anyway, let's talk about the rest of the trades. You got a second entry long. I've already told you about these. The trap. Then you got 2 legs back right at the trend line. Look at that reversal bar. I would have been leery of using the stop right there. You want to try to use the limit. But in order for me to get filled, I had to chase this one, and I got filled where the stop would have got filled, or else I was going to get left behind. And but it went on up. I was able to get it filled. I had to chase it a little bit, and usually I don't even recommend doing that, but I felt confident we were going to try to at least test this high. And then it looked like that was the break in the new low, but this, you know, you got a little trend working down here. And you can see we broke it right here, came back and tested it. Let me get this out of the way just so you can see. We had this little trend line working here. We had a break. We pulled back and tested it, and guess what? We went higher again. and that's what you look for. And so there's a nice long right there. There's a second entry long there, and then you got a little trap that broke lower there and went higher. This is one that you probably want to use a limit order, and it would have got filled a tick or so back in there, and then you're going higher. This one I drew in green. Of course, you expect some resistance up here. Look what's happened every time prices got up here. So you got to be ready. You might want to exit any runners here, especially if it goes into overlap. Or you might just want to at least tighten your stop in case it starts making lower lows and lower highs. And guess what? You get 2 legs of correction. But I drew this one green. That's a nice reversal bar. But there's a lot of overlap there. But, it's a range day, and the odds are we're going to the other side. So you see if you'd taken it, it would have worked. I just didn't like it because they were trying to take it higher there. Okay, had yet another interruption, but we talked about this trade, and then you got a second entry short here, nice reversal bar. You could have entered that one with a stop. A lot of times if you use these limit orders, generally the only time I use a limit order is when I don't like the signal bar. It's got some stem on it or something, or if it's coming out of some congestion, because generally it's going to pull back like it did right here. So you would have scalped out of this one probably anyway, but it comes back, and guess where it goes back to? Right to that point, and then it turns down again. Again, stop or limit order, either way it worked. And then you get a couple of legs up, you get a first entry long, and then a second entry long, and you trapped a lot of people there. And there's already a lot of people that have gotten long, that probably got long here, and they're giving it a little more room. And then suddenly, for whatever reason, they turn the sell button on, and look at that thing go. And mostly because they got a lot of people trapped, and they start working it. But they just, off to the races. And now you can see now we got a little 2 tries to go lower, and we're trying to go higher here again. So we'll see what happens. But that was the last trade of the day. There's another entry right here. Again, that's a huge doji, kind of an ugly one. So you probably would have wanted to wait another bar and see what happens. And then you're really close down here. So what you might have done is when it broke lower, dropped the limit order back up in here, and it would have gotten filled. Even though I didn't add on anything here, I had some runners, so I just waited. And then look, there's a 2-legged pullback right here. Look at this. Let me show you. There's a low right there. Pull back, first entry short, but there's a leg back, and then a leg down, and another leg back, and then a second entry short right there. Boom, look at that. Another easy scalp. It's right off the trend line. What happens, though, is people will watch this one, they'll watch this one, and they'll watch this one. And there's a second entry short right there if you didn't like that one, and look at that move. And then finally, this is the one they'll take after they watched all these others. But now you've had the trend line break, the new low, and they're looking to trap people on the low end and go higher with it. Oh, I moved that line out of there. But anyway, and then they'll watch it all the way down, and they can't. And then suddenly they'll say, "I can't stand it anymore. I got to get in the next one." And they get in right here, and guess what? It reverses, and they say, "Well, why did this 2-legged pullback to the EMA fail?" Well, it's because the move down is over. That's why it failed. But you have to be able to read the price action to understand the move is over. And if you don't understand the move is over, and guess what? By getting short right here, you're getting short within a few ticks of a brand new low, which was a failed move low. And look at all those stems down here. There's other clues. There's lots of clues. But if you don't understand how to read the price action, you can't understand why a nice little 2-legged pullback to the EMA failed. But that's why the move is over. All the move has happened. The smart traders realize this is a low, and look at that move right there. And that's probably just from running stops on all these people that got short that were hoping it was going to go lower, and then they got to exit or they're going to give all their money back. And then it also invites new traders in that see it moving higher, and they realize the trends. So new longs come in, and suddenly the longs are overtaking the shorts, and boom, off it goes. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Just because there's a 2-legged pullback to the EMA, if the move is over, it doesn't matter. You got to be leery. And, you know, if it's not a really good setup, you're almost always better to wait on the second entry. And here's a good example of one. There's your first entry, a little pullback right there, and there's your second entry. And look how quick that moved down. But we really didn't have a real good break of the trend line yet. They were trying to break it here, but they really hadn't done it yet. And so one more test, and you see it didn't go much further. And then look, there's a lot of congestion there too. That's another clue. So just lots of different reasons why you can't just take every two-legged pullback to the EMA. Here's one right here, two-legged pullback, but you know, it goes below the EMA. And that's another thing. People get too tied up on the EMA. The EMA just gives you clues. Generally, if the market's trending, it's not going to get above the EMA very often until the trend is reversed. When you see it swinging constantly from both sides, that's a good clue that you're in a trading range, so be wary. But just because, just like right here, most of the bars are below the EMA, but it's still reversed and started going higher. It doesn't mean that and that's a pretty good downtrend right there, so that's a clue that we are. But don't get too caught up. Some people take the EMA to it's just a clue. It's not something that you want to trade on alone. You know, like right here, all the prices might get below the EMA, and so they say, oh, well, all the prices were below the EMA. Why didn't this short right here work? Well, there's two measured legs down, and it's time for a correction. They trapped everybody and had a correction. That's why. So, and that's generally what happens is you know, people start trying to sell down here at these lows, and then it starts going higher, and they reverse up here at the highs, and they just get whipsawed twice in both directions. So I hope that maybe that shows you something or teaches you something of value. But I wanted to talk about those things today. Not a whole lot of trades today, really, through lunchtime. There's enough to make plenty of money, especially if you caught this last move, or if you caught any of these last couple of moves down through here. But if, you know, one thing I will say before closing, if prices are bouncing around in here and you don't understand, you don't see these channels, and you don't realize that this is a, you know, if you don't know 100% that you're right about what's going on, then don't take a trade. You know, the worst thing to do, you know, sometimes prices get up in here like right here, you know, I may just skip a trade because I don't know for sure that they're going lower from here, because look at the overlap. You know, there's a chance we might push higher here and make a new high above this one. So I just sit tight and I wait, and the next thing you know, a great second entry short comes up and it's an easy trade. And then again, right here, it got in all this chop, and I'm like, you know, I just got to sit and wait. And then guess what? You get a great failed second entry trap, and look, that's the trade of the day. Just by sitting patient and waiting and understanding what's going on here. Now, if you don't understand there's a trend line coming down off of that, and understand that there's strong resistance all up through here, then you may not, you probably got trapped long and you've been scared to go short, even if you didn't get trapped long. But you got to understand the big picture, and not just these last few bars or just last few swings. You got to take it all into account. If you're not looking at the big picture, you don't realize there's strong resistance here and strong support here. And you don't realize that we just trended high to the upside, so now we're probably going to trend down to the low side because it's a bigger picture. It's a trading range day. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. That's 24 minutes worth. Good stuff today, though, to talk about, and hopefully people can learn from and answer some questions that I continue to get over and over, the same ones. They're different people, but, you know, I get those same general questions all the time. And then the bottom line is you're not reading the price action right, and you're not understanding what's going on, but yet you're entering trades. And all that's going to do is lead to losses. So, I mean, if you've got to sit here all day until you finally see a trap, if you just sit and wait on the traps, here's one right here. This is kind of a two-legged pullback, so kind of a second entry long, even though it doesn't, you know, usually if close is close enough. But look, a lot of people got trapped on that very tick higher because they saw this big reversal bar. They're not paying any attention to the trading range and the resistance up here, and they go long right there somewhere while this is either moving up or after it's closed, and they're long at that very tick. And guess what? That's the high tick of the day since the open. and they're long from right there. And guess what? They've probably watched it all the way down, hoping and praying that it comes back, and it's still against them right now, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon almost. So don't let that happen to you. If you get it wrong here, exit and then make it back on the next trade or two and get back in the game again. But that's what usually happens to people is they get trapped at the highs, they get trapped down here at the lows, and then they hang on watching it go the other direction without them. And it just keeps going and going and going, and they keep hoping and praying. If you find yourself hoping and praying that it comes back, take my advice on this. Close it instantly no matter how big the loss is, because I can promise you the loss will likely get much bigger, and it can often get so big that it blows your account out or it's devastating and you can't come back from it ever. So if you find yourself hoping and praying that a trade comes back, go ahead and get out as fast as you can. Trust me on that one. And when you do, it'll probably turn and go right where you thought or hoping and praying it was. But most, if you stay in, 9 times out of 10, and I know this from experience, trust me, 9 times out of 10, it ain't coming back, and you're going to be washed out. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.